Have you ever been immersed in the battle with yourself or others over the best math curriculum for homeschoolers? I hope so. I would sure hate to think that I'm the only one who has faced these battles. My name is Deanne, and I am here to tell you that you are in the right place. As one of the team of curriculum consultants at Rainbow Resource Center, answering math curriculum questions is a daily occurrence. While the questions are worded differently based on each family's specific need, they can be easily grouped together. And because I love a good top 5 list, let's do a top 5 of the math questions asked by Rainbow customers. Number 5, I think my child has gaps. How do we fix them without repeating the grade? Number 4, which math program is the easiest to use? 3, what is your best-selling math curriculum? Number 2, what is the difference between program A and program B? And our top math question, what is the best math curriculum I can buy? Unfortunately, I have some bad news. There is not one perfect math curriculum that works for every child. This is good news, actually. It's great news because you are in control. You have permission to find the best option for your children. At Rainbow, we have developed an easy-to-follow formula called the Family Way to guide you to the best program for your situation. All you need is a foundational understanding of your child, yourself, and the options. We will explore this more in depth later in the workshop. But first, I want to back up and give you an overview of math education as it relates to homeschoolers and address some questions that are frequently asked. In many ways, what to teach and how to teach it has long been controversial in terms of math education. If you're interested in learning more, check the links below for a timeline of math education in the United States. When it comes to math education, there are 2 schools of thought. One is the belief that students learn best through a traditional approach and feel math education should return to the basics. Traditional math education emphasizes memorization of math facts, following a traditional sequence of courses and teacher-directed instruction. This approach maintains that memorization of number facts and formulas is necessary for math success. On the other side are those who promote math reform, a child-centered approach that focuses on guided exploration with a team approach to problem solving and the extensive use of calculators to perform basic functions to prevent students from being held back in their explorations. The early 1900s was a time when math education began to transition from a traditional approach to a more child-centered exploratory approach. Then came World War II, and the military quickly discovered soldiers lacked basic skills to understand gunnery and logistical computations, and then Sputnik happened a decade later. By this time, it became apparent that Americans were falling behind in math skills, which compelled mathematicians to come alongside teachers to develop math curriculum and led to the poorly executed new math, which lasted from the 1960s through the mid-70s. Both teachers and students floundered with new math, which led some teachers to return to teaching the basics or traditional math, which they were more familiar with, while others stayed the course with the new math ideals. The 1980s and early 90s became a time of rapid change as parents and politicians became more aware of the failures of math education, and a new set of standards were developed by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. These new standards were really a fleshing out of the new math ideas with more of a focus on student-centered discovery and group learning. There were some negative aspects of these standards, including de-emphasizing paper and pencil computations for the use of calculators. The student-centered discovery learning replaced teacher-led instruction of facts and formulas, and group learning was prioritized over individual mastery. But there was a positive side. The use of math manipulatives regained popularity for helping students understand math concepts. Fast forward 20 years, faced with continued decline in U.S. student placement in international math rankings, the Common Core standards were developed. Common Core does a pretty good job with arithmetic and fractions, both of which are foundational for higher level math. Unfortunately, expectations for algebra and geometry are significantly lower than the published standards of other countries. Parents and teachers have also expressed concern that the Common Core standards do not prioritize fact memorization. There is also great frustration that some students do not grasp math as quickly, especially when presented with more than one way to solve a math problem, which is integral to the Common Core standards. There is also some concern that a child may fall behind because the curriculum keeps moving without providing a struggling student with more review or remedial instruction. Which brings us to post-pandemic 2023 and beyond. Math scores have fallen to the lowest in decades. Honestly, there is a lot of finger pointing about the causes of this recent drop in math scores, and that is beyond the scope of this video. However, it is important to understand that the past couple of years have been hard for our kids in many ways, including their math education. As a homeschool family, why is it important to understand a bit of this history? First, as a parent considering math curriculum, it's important to understand your math background and what standards may have influenced your math education. The way you learned or understand math may not be the same way that your children have been taught. Second is your child. Have they been in a school system that has aligned itself with standards? If yes, you may want to find out if they were using one of the older National Council of Teachers of Mathematics standards or the newer Common Core or State Core standards. Each set of standards is different. It's also important to keep in mind that if you are in a state that requires testing, you will want to find out what math standards they follow to ensure that you meet the expectations, which can be done by choosing a standards-aligned program or through adding a standards-aligned supplement to prepare for required testing. When you look at different curriculum programs, like Saxon, Horizons, Abeka, Bob Jones, Life of Fred, Matthew C., Right Start, and the various Singapore programs, all teach the basic operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, as well as fractions, decimals, and percents. They will differ in their teaching approach, amount of drill provided, and the amount of problem solving incorporated. So how is it even possible to choose the best math curriculum for your family? While it is possible to talk to your friends at homeschool and spend countless hours searching the internet, I firmly believe there is a better way. At Rainbow, we consider these your family factors. These family factors are so important that we've covered them more thoroughly in a separate workshop called Choosing Curriculum the Family Way, which walks you through choosing the best curriculum in any subject area. These necessary considerations include faith and philosophy, curriculum approach, money, individual learners, your life situation, and you as a teacher. We consider these factors so important that we have designed our website and catalog around icons that highlight these factors. We also offer free in-depth curriculum comparison charts that show you at a glance each of these factors. Let's look at the family factors of math. F stands for faith or philosophy. In all subject areas, we encourage parents to consider whether a curriculum has an underlying Christian or secular worldview. While this is often a great consideration for science and history, it is still something to keep in mind as you select a math curriculum. There are excellent math curricula from both Christian and secular publishers. As a family, decide how important this is to you and take time to evaluate the worldview of the program. In addition to knowing the faith of the authors and curriculum when considering a math program, there are two main educational philosophies to consider. Earlier, we talked about the two schools of thought in math education, a traditional back-to-the-basics approach that prioritizes math fact memorization, and the guided or exploratory math philosophy that prioritizes exploration of math concepts and problem solving as a team. Both ideas have merit and can be used successfully in your home school. A bit later, we will talk about other factors that help in this decision. I do want to briefly mention that there are two programs marketed to homeschoolers that integrate both of these philosophies in their curricula. First are the math programs based on the Singapore Math Syllabus, which has been described as a balanced approach between blending together the old-fashioned algorithms and the visual representations and critical thinking. There are numerous Singapore math programs available. It's important to understand that Singapore math is not just one curriculum like Abeka math or Saxon math. Rather, Singapore math is a way of teaching math that is based on a syllabus from the Ministry of Education in Singapore. If you would like to learn more about the different Singapore math programs available, see the link in the description. Then there is the Right Start math program that uses the child-centered discovery that is guided by the parent teacher and incorporates games to practice math facts. One writer has said it takes the good aspects of Reform Math and incorporates the scripted teacher lessons to ensure students eventually get to the correct understanding. If you would like to learn more about Right Start Math, be sure to check out our Right Start Math videos. The next family way consideration is approach, not to be confused with the two philosophies just discussed. This is an important consideration with all curricula and refers to the teaching approach or methodology. Let's consider the approaches through a math curricula lens. First is the traditional approach, which is teacher-centered and typically includes a textbook, teacher manual, test, and the like. Although this has historically been the approach of school classrooms, in recent years, however, there has been a transition to online math programs using Google Classroom or other resources. Some classroom curricula are a blend of online and worksheets, but each still retains a level of teacher instruction. There are numerous homeschool programs that align with the traditional approach, including Saxon Math, Abeka Math, Rod and Staff Math, to name a few examples. Next is the Charlotte Mason approach, a methodology based on the works of a 19th century educator who maintained that children learn best through literature or living books and not textbooks. While this may seem an unusual way to teach mathematics, there are a couple of options available. Math Lessons for a Living Education from Master Books, and Life of Fred, which offers curriculum for elementary through the high school years. You'll even find college-level texts like statistics and complex analysis in the Life of Fred series. The classical approach is based on the Latin trivium, or 3 stages of learning: the grammar stage, which focuses on memorization and facts, the logic stage, which develops critical thinking, and the rhetoric stage, where students develop and defend ideas. There is not a specific classical math curriculum, but publishers of classical curriculum offer recommendations for families. For example, Rod and Staff or Saxon Math are frequently referenced. Memoria Press is in the process of creating Memoria Math. Currently, pre-algebra and algebra are available, with geometry expected in the future. The Montessori method is based on the teachings of a 20th century educator, Marie Montessori, who emphasized sensory-driven discovery learning with real-life applications. Schiller Math is a homeschool-friendly Montessori program. Other math terms that you may hear frequently are sequential and spiral. Sequential curriculum is when well-defined learning objectives are organized into smaller, sequentially structured units. In a highly sequential program like Mastering Essential Math Skills and Developmental Math, whole books or levels might be devoted to a particular skill set. For example, subtraction. Other sequential programs such as MCP Math, Envision Math, Exploring Creation with Mathematics, or the Singapore programs have a student working for a chapter or unit on a single skill set before going on to the next skill set. One significant advantage is that the students can master a particular concept before progressing to the next. The main disadvantage is the lack of review. There are other highly sequential programs which are often referred to as mastery or conceptual programs because the focus is student mastery of one concept before moving on to the next, with little or no review of the previously learned topic. Along with minimal review, these programs are usually out of sync with standardized tests. Spiral curriculum, on the other hand, repeats concepts and topics in each grade level, but adds more depth each year. Spiral curriculum varies in the amount of review, as well as how much new content is taught at a time. Examples of spiral math curricula include Saxon, Abeka, and Math with Confidence. There are advantages to the spiral approach. Concepts are reviewed and repeated. Supporters will cite research that shows that such review and repetition is the way to move conceptual learning from short-term memory to long-term memory. The goal is for basic arithmetic skills to become second nature so that it can be done quickly and easily. The greatest disadvantage is student boredom. If a child quickly grasps the concepts, they may find the repetition boring and become frustrated with the slower pace. Our next letter is M, which represents money. If you have watched any of my other videos, you know that my family homeschooled on a very tight budget for several years, and I would say I'm not alone. Most of us are concerned with how much a program costs, or if there is a way to do the same thing for less money. When considering math curriculum, it is important to make sure that you compare them equally. What I mean by this is that if a program is sold as a complete package, for example, Matthew C's Universal Sets, it may seem expensive at first, but compare it to a different program that requires you to purchase the student text with or without a workbook, the teacher guide, and the manipulative separately. You may be surprised to see how quickly the cost difference disappears when you start adding up all the individual components. Another important factor in determining the real cost of a program is the use of consumable materials. Consumable means that the student writes in the book, and when he is finished, it has been used up. Non-consumable components, on the other hand, can be reused or resold, making your actual investment less than it might seem initially. Non-consumable resources like textbooks or teacher guides will also give you the opportunity to purchase used materials. But be careful with this and make sure that you can match publication dates and editions with any consumables that you will need to purchase. Often when a publisher updates or revises their curriculum, the new workbook will no longer be compatible with the previous teacher edition. The good news is that it's not necessary to spend a lot of money to get a quality math program, especially in the elementary years. The Strayer-Upton Practical Math Series, a reprint of a 1930s program, is thorough and comprehensive in terms of basic arithmetic. Other affordable programs include Liberty Mathematics, Math Mammoth, and Rodenstath Arithmetic. If you look at our math comparison chart, you will see we have attempted to separate math curriculum into 3 cost levels. We've looked at the F, A, and M factors in terms of math education. Now it's on to our family I factor. I represents individuals. Does a program fit the learning styles and abilities of my student? As you consider the individuals in your family, many of the factors we've been talking about may emerge as more important for one child or another. For instance, pacing, how fast the instruction moves. Some children need a slower pace with more review and repetition, while others need the challenge of a faster pace. This was my experience as a homeschool mom. My daughter needed a faster paced program that she could master and move on, without the frustration and drudgery of repeating something she understood well. My son, on the other hand, needed a program that offered a bit more review, but also fewer problems to write out each day. Use of manipulatives is another consideration. Many, if not most, math programs are either organized around the use of manipulatives or strongly encourage their use, particularly in the younger years. This is because manipulatives help the child move from concrete thinking to abstract thinking. Students first touch, feel, and manipulate concrete items, then are taught pictorial concrete or to recognize pictures of the items, all before they begin to understand the abstract meaning of the math symbols used to represent the concrete items. Even though most math programs will use manipulatives to some extent, there can be a difference in how much they are used. Programs like Right Start, Math UC, Schiller Math, and Mequon Math are completely immersed in manipulatives. Others, like Singapore math programs or Horizons, allow the teacher to pick and choose how often manipulatives are used. Some, like Saxon, are fully integrated with manipulatives in the early years, but phase them out completely in middle school. One thing to remember is that courses that use manipulatives will require more teacher-student interaction. It's also important to understand your learner. Some children are bored with manipulatives and readily move from the concrete to the pictures and the abstract understanding. Others may need that tactile kinesthetic connection beyond the early years into the upper grades and possibly high school. There are other factors that may impact your individual children. For example, are the books black and white or are they colorful? If they're colorful, how much color? Some children do okay with some color and graphics, but become easily overwhelmed by too much color or graphics on one page. Does your child need a workbook rather than being expected to write out all the problems on a separate piece of paper? Any one of these factors may be a deal breaker in terms of a particular curriculum. The next consideration in our family acronym is life. Your family's situation is unique. Do you need a program where your child can work independently? How much time do you have available? Will a program with high student-teacher involvement work for your situation? For some families, you may have time for a curriculum that requires more direct teaching time, but then life happens and change is inevitable. This does happen, and if possible, it's important to try and stick with your math program or possibly switch to one that follows a similar teaching philosophy in scope and sequence. I think this might be a good time to talk about the possible dangers of constantly changing math programs. It's not unusual to talk with moms who have used several math programs, one after another, never really sticking with one more than a year because it just doesn't seem to be working. Let's compare math education to Jenga. Have you ever played Jenga? It takes several minutes to set up the game. Wooden blocks, which are identical in size, are laid 3 abreast and then topped by 3 more, laid 3 abreast and perpendicular to the previous row. A Jenga tower is carefully built through 18 layers. The resultant tower is solid and strong. Then the play begins. With each turn, a player removes a block from the tower and adds it to the top, resulting in a taller but increasingly unstable tower. At some point, with some block removal, the tower collapses. Now let's apply this to math education. Imagine each Jenga level corresponds to a basic arithmetic skill like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, or percents. Each of these skills need to be laid carefully and sequentially through the elementary years, and the student needs to be proficient in them. More than proficiency, the student needs to develop a number sense, the intuitive sense of what numbers mean to each other and how they interact. Fact families, or number bonds as they're sometimes called, are a good example of this. 5 plus 4 equals 9, just as 4 plus 5 equals 9. 9 minus 4 equals 5, and 9 minus 5 equals 4. All of these facts belong to the same family and relate to each other. If a student's math tower is solid and strong, then they're prepared to start building the upper levels, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus. However, if these blocks have been removed through lack of retention or if they were never there in the first place, the structure becomes unstable and the student will have difficulty moving into higher level math. If enough blocks are missing, the entire structure will topple, and the student will be mired in a pile of miscellaneous skills without ever understanding the beauty and complexity or the sturdiness of the structure as it is supposed to be. Math skills like Jenga must be built sequentially to have the strongest foundation. When looking at math curriculum, different programs will have a different pacing and scope of instruction. You will miss important chunks of instruction if you're not careful because of these differences. This is particularly true if you are moving between sequential programs and spiral programs. Sometimes it is necessary to switch because the student is really floundering in a particular math program, or as mentioned above, a significant life event happens. However, if possible, especially in the elementary years, it is best to find a program that works for your family and stay the course. If you're using a math program that isn't working, check out my MathRx video to discover ways to fix the problem before tossing out the textbook. I also encourage you to try to avoid the comparison trap that inevitably comes with every new program. Now, upper middle school and high school math is different. Courses are often more similar in scope and sequence, and even in methodology. If you determine it is best for you and your student to switch math programs, we always recommend that you have your student take the math placement test for the new program. Most of our major math program publishers provide placement tests, and we've added many of them to our website to make it more convenient for you. On our website, search for math placement tests to see the list of tests available. Download and print them for your student to complete. Correct answers and guidance for the correct grade level are included. Our last family factor is the Y factor, you. This is probably the factor that is most often overlooked. How much teacher support do you need? How confident do you feel about teaching math? How do you understand math, and how will you be able to best help your child? If I were to conduct a study, I suspect I would discover that homeschool moms are more insecure about teaching math than any other subject. Perhaps this is because the math instruction we receive left us unprepared to master high school math courses. Perhaps because the conflicts surrounding the various methods of teaching math produces an underlying fear that if not done right, our children will be behind or have holes in their education. This insecurity is very understandable. Thankfully, most math curricula for homeschoolers provide support tools for parents. There are excellent, well-constructed programs available from the same publisher that begins in kindergarten and goes through the high school years. So a family can literally start in kindergarten with a particular publisher and stay with them through the high school years. Examples include Abeka, Bob Jones, and Saxon Math. Some publishers provide scripted lessons, particularly at the elementary level. Scripting means that every word the teacher needs to say is right there in the teacher's manual. For example, Right Start Math and the elementary levels of Saxon and The Good and the Beautiful are all scripted. Even if not completely scripted, most math programs have comprehensive and helpful teacher's guides or home instructor's guides. These provide lesson plans, lesson presentations, answers, and oftentimes solutions. Whether mom is busy with other children or a home business or insecure about teaching math, courses designed for independent work may be a blessing. All instruction is written to the student, and coupled with solutions manuals, students can work somewhat independently. Alpha Omega Life Pack, Saxon Middle School, and secondary courses, Math Mammoth, and Life and Fred are all examples of programs that work well for independent studies. Technology can be another teaching support, whether you need someone to teach the lessons or give additional explanations of the concepts. Numerous options are available, and I am sure that more will be forthcoming as technology becomes more available to the homeschool market. When it comes to technology, there are some programs that are built around DVD or streaming instruction. Others are textbook, workbook based and have optional teaching video instruction to support homeschool families. Programs with video instruction integral to the courses include Jump Math and Math-U-See. Other programs like Simply Good and Beautiful Math, Primary Math 2022, and Envision Math offer online animations and resources to supplement their courses. There are multiple video teaching options for Saxon Math, including Nicole the Math Lady, Saxon Teacher, Dive from Dr. Shorman, and Mastering Algebra from Art Reed. There is also the Math Without Borders Home Companion video instruction, which is aligned to various high school courses. For families using Singapore Math 2022, there are digital learning bundles available as well. I realize we have covered a lot of material today. Before we end our time together, I want to briefly address some of the questions we get about high school math. At the high school level, math has traditionally been Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, with a fourth advanced math course in 12th grade, something like trigonometry or precalculus. However, today, college preparatory students may take algebra in 7th or 8th grade, so they will be able to complete calculus and/or college algebra still in high school. Some high schools offer dual credit courses in college algebra or calculus. As homeschoolers, it is possible to obtain dual credits by taking courses at a local community college or an accredited online college. Credit may also be available by taking an AP or CLEP test. If a student is heading toward a math or science career path, there are distinct advantages to having AP or dual enrollment courses on the high school transcript. Be sure to check with the colleges your child is considering to find the best option for them. On this note, if your student is considering the CLEP test for college credit, be sure to check with their college of choice. Colleges may not accept or may limit the CLEP test credits they accept. On the other end of the spectrum, it's possible to receive high school credit for pre-algebra as well as for consumer math courses. Be sure to check the requirements specified by your state's homeschooling laws. We're often tempted to let our children slide by in terms of higher level math. We have heard some parents say their teens aren't college bound, so they don't need it. Other times it just happens because we're busy and it's difficult, and maybe our friends are letting it slide too. Please consider these things. Algebra and geometry build thinking and reasoning skills, which are valuable wherever life takes you. Additionally, taking strong college prep high school math courses keeps the door open. It gives our students more options, allows them more choices should they decide later that they want to pursue a college degree. Another fun thought from this grandma of little ones on the path to becoming second-generation homeschoolers: if I allowed my children to slide by with math that was barely more than arithmetic, I would not have prepared them to teach the next generation the skills necessary to succeed in this ever-changing world. Conquering higher-level math at the high school level is empowering. It causes a student to realize that he can work hard and do something that requires discipline and determination, a life skill that will help them in adulthood. But back to our opening question: is there a perfect homeschool math curriculum? The answer is a resounding yes. Choosing the best curriculum is an individual decision, and there is not a one-size-fits-all math curriculum or the perfect math curriculum for all learners, even if a math program labels itself as the best. There is no program that is so superior to all the other excellent programs that it can call itself the best. Every program has strengths and weaknesses. Every program has things it does very well. The key is to find the program that best fits your faith and philosophy, the approach that works best for you, that fits within your budget and teaches your individual student learning styles while meeting those unique needs that you have as a teacher. And if you feel that you have been using a program that has been the worst decision you've ever made, be sure to check out our MathRx video, where we talk through ways to heal or fix broken math programs through supplements, games, and more. You can also reach out to our consultant staff. This free service is available online through live chat or email, as well as by phone at 841-3456. We are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. If this video has been helpful to you, we would love for you to like and share it with your friends and family. Our mission is to help homeschool families through our online content and free curriculum consultation services. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notifications button to be notified when we release new content.